commercial-free, listener-sponsored Pacifica Radio, 90.1 FM, KPFT, Houston.
Good morning. This is Open Journal, KPFT's experiment in community-inspired radio. Every weekday at 8 a.m., KPFT brings you a look at the people and ideas that make the Gulf Coast great. Right after Jim Hightower's Common Sense commentary, we welcome guests sharing their knowledge, topics of interest here and globally, and the signature arts and culture that have always been a part of 90.1 KPFT. We welcome your participation throughout the program on social media. Find us on Twitter at KPFT and on Facebook at KPFT Houston. Thanks for listening and stay tuned.
The spooks are spooked, not by anything that foreign enemies might do to America, but by what our CIA spooks and their political overseers did to America. By America, I mean the essence of our country, our ideals, and the moral values we hold up as a beacon to the world. That beacon shines less brightly today because of one word: torture. Even as the Bush-Cheney regime was professing that America does not torture, Bush himself authorized secret torture sites. The National Security Council approved the CIA's request to torture prisoners we held, and the Justice Department crafted secret memos to rationalize the torture. Now, the officialdom and spooks of that day are spooked, not because of what they did and then lied about, but because they got caught. The gruesome, nauseating details of their brutal torture of fellow human beings has just been documented in an in-depth investigative report by the Senate Intelligence Committee. So spooked is the whole hierarchy by the shamefulness of this, and so intense is their culture of denial, that even today's officials cannot bring themselves to say the word torture. John Brennan, the current CIA director, dodged the blunt truth of the word by saying, "I will leave it to others how they might want to label those activities." Activities? Do they think they can paper over the depravity of torturing people by calling it an activity? That only heightens the shame of what the hierarchy did in America's name. Brennan then tried to bury the horror by saying he hopes, quote, "we can put aside this debate and move forward." This is Jim Hightower saying, move forward toward what? If today's officials can't even call it what it is and simply move forward without holding anyone accountable for their criminal and immoral acts of torture, then future officials are free to do it again. And you can bet they will.
Hightower's commentaries are brought to you by the Hightower Lowdown, the monthly newsletter with Hightower's take on what Wall Street and Washington are up to. For information, visit hightowerlowdown.org.
Thank you, Jim. Welcome aboard. Thanks for being there. Thanks for your support. 3 minutes after 8, and you are tuned in to Open Journal. It's Monday, December the 15th, the Ides of December already. I'm Dwayne Bradley.
I'm Marlu Blue, and anti-corruption protests continued in Mexico over the weekend as calls for change in the country are growing. Our guests this morning, Pamela Gonzalez, Martina Grifaldo, and Alma Cooper, are here to discuss local efforts in support of activism in Mexico.
And you, as our third host, well, we want to hear from you, what you think about this topic. Anything else during the program, please find us on Twitter at KPFT or on Facebook at KPFT Houston, hashtag du jour, and always KPFT OJ.
I like that, right? And also, you can call 713-526-5738. We're going to note your comments and questions during this program, and we might even be able to use some of them if you get them in early enough. Mm-hmm. Well, happy Monday.
Welcome to another week, midway through the final month of the year already. It's preposterous.
It's going so fast, and it's only 2 more hours until Rourke hits the stage again. So Mellow Monday is going to come back out and
mellow out,
get you going.
Well, hey, I had a great weekend. Although I am so far behind the 8 ball, I was up till 2 o'clock this morning hammering out a final exam paper for my course over at the University of St. Thomas. I have till noon tomorrow, and I think I'm going to be up all night tonight, too. But that being said, there was some, wonderful things happening this weekend, many of which I had to skip, including the lights in the heights, which inundated my neighborhood, and I escaped. There was also this rather large gathering of people over by the Neiman Marcus, Post Oak and Galleria Westheimer experience that actually made the newspapers, which is a good thing.
Made the news as well.
And, police accountability, the big topic, large rallies from coast to coast, as you heard on Democracy Now! And if you missed any of that, of course, we rebroadcast this morning's Democracy Now! Again for you at 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. From Oakland to New York City to D.C., very large gatherings of people, particularly noteworthy those in Washington and in New York. They were covered quite well by our colleagues over at Democracy Now! Here in Houston, well, they always pick they pick this one cat, keep calm and switch on. And protester arrested by police Saturday outside the Galleria. They say about 300 people demonstrated. Now that's the St. John Bernard Smith's statistics, perhaps fed to St. John by the folks at the HPD, perhaps his own estimate from perhaps being there. 6 arrested in the Galleria protest over police brutality and the deaths of, too many people. And, that somewhat dovetails into what will be this larger topic of the day that we'll be discussing with Mrs. Cooper, Grifaldo, and Gonzalez related to the student disappearances and likely murders in Mexico.
Which I'm looking forward to, actually. It should be a great discussion, and we're happy to have you guys here with us as well. Indeed.
And between now and then, of course, we will have our Song of the Day and some calendar items for your edification. One of the things that caught my attention over the weekend, and I'd love to share on this a bit, is the Justice Department. Eric Holder, in one of what may be his final, legacy pieces, is indicating that they're not going to force James Risen, the Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times investigative reporter, who is being squeezed to reveal his sources, and he's saying, "Hell no! I'll go to jail. This is fundamental to the Constitution of our country. This is, if I cave, America is gone." And I know that may be oversimplifying it and making it sound somewhat grandiose, but it's not really that far removed. If the Justice Department does not force Risen to testify, or if they do and he refuses, well, I mean, that means a lot. Eric Holder is indicating that that during his tenure as the AG, as Attorney General, he will not be pushing on this First Amendment case. He said that any investigative reporters, any journalists doing their job will not go to jail on his watch. Well, his watch is almost over. He's announced that he's leaving. He's going to be gone soon. And James Risen was first subpoenaed way back in 2011 and has been fighting this for a long time. This goes back years now, and actually it goes all the way back to his 2006 book called State of War. And, we thought that once the Obama administration came in that this case would be kicked to the curb as it rightly ought to be. And yet, up until now, the Justice Department has been indicating that they're going to come after James Risen. Holder's legacy, he's already carried out through the Justice Department 7 prosecutions of current or former government officials for disclosing classified information. Of course, noteworthy among them, Bradley, now Chelsea Manning, and the WikiLeaks document dump, which I think is our generation's variation on the Pentagon Papers theme. So we'll be monitoring this situation and apprise you of any developments in that. But certainly freedom of the press, something we hold near and dear to us in Pacifica at KPFT, and we hope that all red-blooded Americans. I think most Americans, most human beings are red-blooded, and we hope that this is something that you resonate with. It is one of the core principles upon which this democratic republic was built. These freedoms, which were held to be self-evident, and then further than being self-evident, were enumerated with specificity and are now in jeopardy, So stay tuned.
I think it's an interesting point that you bring up, and even if it's just sort of a symbolic point, sometimes symbols are all we have to make those points, especially in the case of Eric Holder. The hostage situation that's going on right now down in Australia is a case in point where the man who is holding these people hostage for their lives, what does he want? He wants to talk to the Prime Minister of Australia, and he wants the flag, an ISIS flag brought to him. And why does he want these things? So that a nation, a sovereign nation, will symbolically recognize that ISIS does exist. I feel that symbols have become the only way that we can make protests. And even if I don't agree with him and I think it's wrong, I think he's making a point. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that kind of thing plays out.
Indeed. And, well, I'm glad I didn't have a Jones for a chocolate over the weekend while in Australia, which neither of those things happened to me.
No, not going to happen.
Well, speaking of things that have happened, Eon, the Golden Quarter, a new opinion piece coming out from Eon, and they have approximated what they call a golden quarter, running from the baby boom era following right hot on the heels of the end of World War II, from roughly 1945 to 1971, which is really 26 years. So let's say 46 to 71, ushering in during this period of time social as well as technological advances that have defined our world, that are taken largely for granted today. I mean, I don't know. People assume today we're living in this era of massive growth and the proliferation of smartphones, the World Wide Web, and other such innovations that are kind of ubiquitous in modern society. But here are some of the things that happened during the Golden Quarter following World War II. The birth control pill, electronic technology, computers, the internet, nuclear power, television, antibiotics, feminism, civil rights, pop music, mass aviation, reliable and safe automobiles, space travel. All those things were birthed in this 25-year period. And when you think about the scope of the innovation, I was fortunate enough when I was in college, one of the guest speakers that came to our forums that we had to go to on Wednesdays was Buckminster Fuller. And so I met Buckminster Fuller, the guy who invented the geodesic dome, the Dymaxion car, and modeled our Earth in a way to let us look at ourselves differently than we had before. An amazingly creative fellow with a perspective on our world that kind of blew my young mind, because in the span of his life, this man that was speaking to us had seen the world change from horse-drawn carriages to rocket ships landing on the moon, from people having to grow and eat their own food because there was no such thing as refrigeration, to the invention of something called an icebox that was literally a box that an iceman would come by and put a block into. And, these are things that have all happened in the past century, and yet in the course of this one person's lifespan, he observed the world change so dramatically. And when you think about what's happened in our lives, if you out there think about what's happened in your life, however old you may be, whether you're 20 or 40 or 60 or 80 or whatever, the proliferation of technology, the advances that have occurred, the fact that we're able to speak to you, we're using what's pretty old technology. We're talking through a system that was invented, Marconi came up with this system a long time ago, 100 years ago plus. And there are such new advances that are taken for granted. But this is a very interesting piece from Aeon on this, what they call golden quarter, about how most modern advances happened, 40 plus years ago. And even though we think that, Al Gore and the, internet and everything have changed the world, and it has. Smartphones have changed the world. They really have. The cloud is there, and it's part and parcel of so many of our lives.
Well, at least the legislation hasn't changed, that's for sure, in 40 years, and it does need to catch up to whatever is going on in this wonderful world of ours, if you ask me.
Okay, well, gosh, Sorry, I wound.
Happy Monday.
I wound up there. I'm sorry, but we're gonna pause. We'll let you know about events happening this week in Houston in just a moment. But first, let's get a traffic and weather update. We'll be right back.
Well, starting with the weather, it's 68 degrees right now, 97% humidity. And if you're hoping for snow this Xmas, you will be disappointed. Long-range forecasts for the next 10 days show the daytime high temperatures hovering around 60. But however much you love Xmas, you can't be too surprised by this weather. Records have shown that it has only snowed in Houston on 35 days since 1895. And in traffic, a heavy truck accident coming down the Ship Channel Bridge. Clockwise on 610, the loop is blocking the right shoulder, the right lane, and the center lane. Be very careful there. 59, the Southwest Freeway inbound, is taking 35 minutes from Highway 6 to downtown. That drive slows down approaching the loop due to an earlier accident already cleared. And 610 clockwise approaching 59. The Southwest Freeway is also very slow for the same reason. And we now return to Open Journal.
Thank you, Patrick.
Hey, today's KPFT calendar brings you ways to enjoy Houston, and we've got a few for you.
The Asia Society Texas Center presents its current exhibition, Traditions Transfigured, from now through February the 15th. In this exhibit, traditional character masks from centuries-old Japanese dramas called Noah masks are the focus. And the Asia Society Texas Center is located at 1370 Southmore Boulevard.
Right there in the museum district. Well, Houston-based photographer Eldar Guliev's series Redemption is now on exhibit at the Russian Cultural Center. It explores the effects of the current Ebola outbreak. Guliev's got black and white photographs showing the faces of victims of the disease, medical personnel trying to stop its spread, and healthy Liberians who are coping with the situation around them. It's on display at the Russian Cultural Center. It's at 2337 Bissonnette. For more information, ourtx.org.
And today, starting at 4 p.m., is one of Discovery Green's cheap skate nights, where you can glide around on that ice rink at a reduced rate, and skate rentals are included. Discovery Green, it's located over at 1500 McKinney, right there next to the George R. Brown. Hey, you can check the front page of our website at kpft.org if you missed any of those event details. Just look for the Open Journal post.
Hey, another thing happening over there at Discovery Green also is that continuing light field.
Lights.
And I still haven't made it. But I know because it's running in through January that we still have time to make it out.
You need to just get through school.
I will. I tell you, afternoon tomorrow, my world changes for at least a month.
It's a new Dwayne.
It's great. Looking forward to that. Well, every Open Journal, we try between Monday and Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. here on your locally produced, independent, community-based Pacifica radio station. We hope, first of all, we appreciate you being there. We appreciate your support, and we thank you for being there as well. Each weekday, about this time of the day, 20 past the hour, a performer from our region is featured with the KPFT Song of the Day. And today, it is Brunson Theater.
Yeah, Brunson Theater. It's a Houston-based rock band, including ex-members of Deadwood Forest and the Scattered Pages. As the band describes it, Imagine Peter Gabriel-era Genesis sung with Justin Hayward of Moody Blues' Timber, cross-pollinating with the Beach Boys and Radiohead into a palatable, flowing collection of songs informed by the Beatles.
Yummy.
Yeah, but we just call it Today's Song of the Day. And here it is, Brunson's Theater's track, The Sin City Venture.
All right. That was The Sin City Venture by Brunson Theater. Today's Song of the Day. KPFT is your home on the dial for local independent music. I hope you know that, and if not, well, you do now. We want you to know. We want you to let us know.
Yeah.
And we want you to know that we want you to let us know about great area artists that you would like us to feature, even if that artist is yourself. And I know some of you are thinking,
don't be shy.
Yeah. So reach out to us on Twitter at KPFT or Facebook at KPFT Houston to make a suggestion. Email in your Song of the Day nominations to us here at openjournal@kpft.org, and we'll see if we can put it all together. And who knows, we could be watching a little Instagram thing of you dancing and jumping up and down, or YouTubing yourself.
We really enjoyed that. If you're still
week.
Up early in the morning to be able to hear us say that, we did really enjoy that.
We actually, last week got a great YouTube link from this guy who was featured on Song of the Day, and Mark was bouncing up and down. And we had played the song, and I was thinking, there's no way this guy's even awake, let alone hearing this song. But
surprise!
Sure enough. Well done, Mark. And also, well done, Brunson Theater. Thank you so much for today's Song of the Day.
Absolutely. Well, on September the 26th, a group of 43 students were kidnapped in Iguala, Guerrero, Mexico. Federal authorities claimed that the police, under the instruction of the mayor, abducted the students and then delivered them to a local criminal organization, the Guerreros Unidos. At this time, authorities have arrested over 80 people, including several police officers, suspected gang members, then Mayor Jose Luis Abarca and his wife. The events have spurred protest across the world asking for change.
And we're very happy to welcome to the Open Journal studio at KPFT World Headquarters Alma Cooper, one of the producers and principals of our very own Tuesday evening program, Proyecto Latinoamericano. Joining us as well, we have Marixa Andrade. They're here with us today on Open Journal to talk about the latest news and about efforts here in Houston to support necessary change in Mexico. So, welcome aboard.
Thank you for having
Marixa.
us.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And so, over the weekend, the New York Times wrote about calls for change being ignored in many cases by the political class. So, do you see that these events over the weekend are beginning to initiate any real change?
In Mexico?
Mm-hmm.
Because there were also
a lot
events
of change
here
well, we need change in this country as well, but that's a whole nother story, and we can talk about that too. But I think it's important to put into a framework for the folks listening to the Open Journal program a wider perspective than perhaps they've seen in the little bit of news they get from our near neighbor.
Well, many protests have been passing all over Mexico, not just in Mexico City, but I think at least in 70% of the states in Mexico, they have been protested over and over, and the reason is the same. We want them, the 43 students that we kidnapped, but the police of the Cocula, they were kidnapped in September 26, and we want them back alive. And your question is if this is protests that are going to lead to any change in Mexico?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that depends on the response of the people. For example, yesterday there was another confrontation with the police in Chilpancingo, Guerrero, which is the capital of the state, and the police were aggressively attacked the protesters. That happened in the morning, and very early in the morning, around 4 in the morning. And this time there are 17 people injured, and they have been denied the medical service for their wounds. And that happened because there was a schedule, a festival, where some rock and roll groups were famous rock and roll groups in Mexico were to perform in support of this fight. Well, after the confrontation, during the morning, some parents got back and confront the police officer that attacked them, and they got 3 officers, and then the police officers, they got them. They put it under custody of the people, and at this time I don't know what is going to happen, but that could be one way to solve this problem, to take the power in their hands, take the jails, put those criminal police in jail, take the Congress in their cities, and the Chilpancingo, which is the capital, take the Congress. I mean, take the power in the people's hand. That will be one of way to solve this problem.
The people, are they armed? Are they able to actually do this? I mean, we know that the police are armed. We know that America has been giving money for guns to fight the drug war, and we know that the police is armed to the teeth. Are the people able to have the power to do this?
I think that's where some of the conflict is. Some people are saying that they have to make peaceful protests, that's the way to combat this criminality.
Yeah.
But there's actually people in Michoacan, which is one of the most affected states. And I was reading news last night that they decided to take it upon themselves, like she said, to exterminate whoever is in the cartels, whoever they think is not going to be of good service to society. So I have not confirmed it for sure, but I think they are going to do this.
I know that there has been protest in so many different ways, and people really are seeing the importance of this. I know that we have received reports that during Malala Yousafzai's Nobel Prize acceptance speech, that a young student actually showed up with a bloody American flag and asked, "Please, Malala, don't forget Mexico." It's so poignant, the things that are happening now. People are so serious. Is it going to make a difference?
It was a Mexican flag.
Yes.
And it's, well, at least the eyes are put in Mexico.
Yeah,
they are torn
focus
to Mexico. They are watching what is happening. And for example, the attitude of the President Peña Nieto in the few days after the kidnapping was that almost indifferent. He didn't even respond. Being the chief of the President of Mexico, he could have answered immediately, a few hours after, or I don't know, soon. And after a few days, he just said something. And and his attitude has been from negligent to doesn't care, I don't care, do solve your problems, till at least talking something about. And that, which is not very radical change, but that has been done because of the pressure, the world pressure, even the United States pressure over his head. And but he is a very incompetent person. Many people in Mexico, many very illustrated person, journalists, writers, they predicted that if we had that kind of president, we will have very, very, very hard time. And their predictions are just confirming.
Very much so. Are there civil rights?
Well, that's funny. Because now
I see Marixa shaking her head.
They might be written somewhere, but they're not being enforced.
Right.
And I think people are fed up with the police not protecting them, with the federal government attacking them. Not just physically, but also with law reforms. So people are fed up every angle you can think of.
So the laws that are passed, are they sort of like we're having here? They're more in favor of corporations, of large business, not necessarily of people's rights and the needs of the people. And
the worst is still to come, because few days ago, the Congress passed a modifications to the Constitution were the rights to protest, to congregate, to to express your feelings, your thoughts, were reduced. Now, I haven't read it because I don't know if it's already published, but in the past, at least in the Constitution, you have the right to move anywhere in Mexico, going anywhere, meet with anybody. Now it's going to be restricted. I don't know how, but it already passed. And with the complacent combination of corruption of the PRI, the party, and power right now with the PAN, and with the, I must clarify this, with the Green Party in Mexico, which it has nothing to do with the Green Party in the United States.
Right.
But with the complicity of those parties, and some also from the PRD that.
I'm not familiar with that.
That's the Democratic Revolutionary Party. And where, by the way, the ex-mayor of Iguala, José Luis Abarca, was member of that PRD party, which in the origin is supposed to be leftist, but in the wrong way.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, it's not. It's not any. If somebody have put their trust in that party, they already see clearly that is not the solution. PRD has the same, well, maybe less, but same corrupted people.
So it sounds like the party system in Mexico is as fatally flawed as is the party system in the United States, where we have supposedly these two parties, Democrats and Republicans, but they're really just two different branches, two different wings on the same bird, which is this corporate party. And the People's Party may or may not even really exist. And so Alma Cooper, Marixa, Andrade, visiting with us here on Open Journal today. It's already 37 minutes past the hour. I'm Dwayne Bradley with Marlowe Blue. You're tuned to listener-sponsored, commercial-free, independent Pacifica Radio for the Upper Texas Gulf Coast and beyond, coming to you right from the heart of Houston, Texas, in Montrose. And we appreciate your support for your only truly local public radio station, and we hope you appreciate that. And consider that as you are looking at giving gifts this holiday, of course. A shameless plug for KPFT. And you know how it is, Alma, as a producer of the radio program. But I'd like to circle back because, many of us are ignorant, either willfully or just accidentally ignorant. We get wrapped up in, okay, we know that things are happening close to us. We know a little bit more about what's happening, not too far around us. We've been, if people were paying attention, they might have been paying attention to protests over by the Galleria this weekend, or that went from coast to coast that we were discussing, that were very much detailed on Democracy Now! This morning. Not so much do we pay attention to what's been happening in Mexico, and yet the Mexican Constitution in paper, the American Constitution in paper, both of them enumerate many, many freedoms that we theoretically have. At least we have them on paper. The freedom of the press, the freedom of speech, the freedom to congregate and to assemble. I've known historically that those freedoms are much more openly violated in Mexico than they are in America. They're being co-opted here, of course, as well. But it's hard. It's hard as an American to imagine that a mayor of a town can be in bed with or somehow tied so closely to drug lords, and that entire busloads of students can disappear, and that there's not, an entire world in insurrection following that. And it's hard to imagine something like that happening. I mean, a person here, a person there. In America, these things are gotten away with, but entire busloads of people. It's almost incomprehensible. So maybe you can help lift our education up. Marixa, could you help us out on I don't know, wrap our heads around how the political system is so broken down that something like this could even conceivably happen?
I think that this had been happening for a while now, and the people knew it, but they had never been like proof about it. And this particular case like shed the light on how deeply intertwined the political system is with the cartels. So everything has turned into making money, even off of drugs. So to the people in power, that means, if you're the mayor, everybody wants in on the goods of the drugs. So in the case of these two, it was the wife that was closely related to the cartels. So
yeah,
that's how they got to be mayor, and she was the one that wanted to become mayor now and kind of control and terrorize the people so that they can get away with drug trafficking.
Yes, and that was the wife. It is said that her brothers, two of her brothers, are one of the heads of the Guerreros Unidos terrorist group, and a narco-traffic group. But it's the same. But what you say that American people don't know how this, cannot conceive how this happened in Mexico, even though we are that close.
Yeah.
And that's true. And you can imagine that when you talk with progressive people about what is happening in Mexico, you're going to find, kind of sympathy about that. Well, you take their attention for 2-3 minutes, and later they say, oh, okay, well, see you around, or whatever. It seems that they don't see the importance of what happened in Mexico and how it's going to be related here in the United States. Same thing that they didn't see how the NAFTA related to their economy. Right. They didn't see the connection between the NAFTA creation and the arriving of more immigrants here. With this violence in Mexico, they're going to see sooner or later that the violence is going to be exported to the United States. It's going to be exported. And so they have to pay very close attention. Now, the other thing is that the more conservative people excuse me, more conservative people said, okay, well, if this is going to happen, we have to put more guards and more officers or patrols at the borders, and we close, and nobody comes in. That's not the solution. That's only seeing, try to cover this song with one finger. It's not the solution, because people need to eat here or there. People need to take care of their, needs here or there, and they're going to find any way to cross or find the ways to put food in their tables. Right. So that is not the solution. The solution could be that the government, the American government, one of the many ways to solve this, the American government stop giving money to the Mexican government, because as you mentioned before, the American government is giving money. They are also exporting guns that you find and not in the police, regular forces in Mexico, but in the cartels. And so stop using the American people money from their taxes to send it to Mexico.
Absolutely. You know, there's so much of a change, too, going on with the cartels. I hear it's no longer just drugs. I hear it's even simple things like they're stealing petroleum. They're stealing gas from the pipelines and selling it on the streets. They're changing the way small items of food are go. I worry about the mothers. I worry about the children. How do they have food? If the price of simple staples have gone up because the cartels have gotten into this business just to expand their business, how do people eat? How do you what is the standard of living like now? I mean, it's got to be horrendous.
You know, there is in the 50s, in 1950s, there was a huge growth in economic in Mexican economy. And was labeled as a miracle economy, Mexican economy miracle.
Right, the economic miracle, I remember.
Yeah, well, I think that miracle in these days is how people can live with money. I mean, they can live with $2 a day, including rent, clothing, food, I mean, education, everything. It's ridiculous. And not just attacking on the economic side, but as we mentioned before, in the liberty and liberties have been changed, the Constitution, but also it has been changed because of the new regulations in exportation and drilling to find oil. Mm-hmm. Few days after the kidnapping of the students, President Peña Nieto went to China. In my words, I would say, to sell the oil, Mexican oil. And then he went to Australia, I don't know to do what, but they are selling our richness. They are selling our, something that causes blood, tears, in that, when President Lázaro Cárdenas expropriate, from foreign companies, expropriate the oil, the right to drill, the right to commercialize, the right to process, all of that is the most important source of income for the government and for Mexico. Now it's put it on the Chinese table to negotiate. Mm-hmm. It's put it in other I don't know, also England or American corporations. But they are drilling they wanted to drill our economy, they wanted to drill our souls. So,
well, we are as addicted to oil as we are to drugs, and both of those are very prominent economic drivers of a lot of the issues that we're touching on here today in the background. We're already 13 minutes in front of 9 o'clock, and we're overdue for a short pause for traffic and weather with traffic out there. The master, Patrick, will get us updated, and we'll return in one moment to the Open Journal.
Well, checking our weather, 68 degrees right now, partly cloudy skies with a chance of rain until noon today. Daytime 60s and overnight 50s in the forecast all this week. No rain is likely today afternoon or on Tuesday, but rain is very likely later this week, according to sources. Pollen levels are moderate, but relatively low particulate and ozone today on the bright side. Looking at traffic, 45 the Gulf Freeway is not the nicest place to be. Traffic is in the 20s from Beltway 8 all the way into 610. 59 the East X Freeway is slow southbound downtown due to an accident cleared earlier. On Loop 610, clockwise on the downslope of the Ship Channel Bridge, traffic is still clogged. It's still slow there due to the right lanes blocked from an earlier accident. Traffic is clogged all the way back to I-10. Otherwise, traffic is surprisingly clear for a Monday on the traffic map, so be careful out there, and let's try to keep it that way. And we now return to KPFT's Open Journal.
Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. Dwayne Bradley here on the Open Journal with Marlo Blue. Our guests in the studio today, Alma Cooper and Marixa Andrade. And we're talking about the 43 missing students in Mexico and some of the other implications that stem from this just profoundly sorrowful disappearance of these students. We're going to run out of time before we can really discuss all of the different threads that are coming up here. But is it really conceivably possible? I mean, it seems to me that these students that have been disappeared, that their mothers and their families and everyone are so rightly calling for them to be returned alive, that they were taken alive, bring them back to us alive. Is this truly in the realm of possibility, or is this magical thinking? Is this wishful thinking that these students could actually still be alive and sequestered somewhere? Marixa?
Well, there hasn't been enough evidence to suggest that they are all dead. I mean, some of the remains were found, but those were not all the students. So there's still a possibility. Yeah, there's still a possibility that they are hiding somewhere, that somebody has them, and they have not been able to come out. But I think that's a little bit of just hope, and it's a way to ask the government for actual proof, to go through with the investigation, to not just like settle for what they're saying. People want answers, and they want scientific proof. They're not gonna just take their explanation. So I wanted to mention that as the result of the 43 students that disappeared, Houston has created an assembly where people are discussing these issues, and where we're trying to help somehow the situation in Mexico, even if it's through just creating awareness.
Is that what they're calling the Popular Assembly
of Houston?
Marixa?
Yes,
Okay.
in Spanish, La Asamblea Popular de Houston. So a lot of people came to the marches and the protests to raise awareness on human rights and how they're not being protected in Mexico. And some of these people have gone through really bad experiences, so that's the reason that they're maybe in the United States. And they just want to let it out. We just want change.
Yeah.
So we see that the government is not going to change anytime soon, so we need to start with changes in the community. So empowering ourselves, feeling like we do have the power to make a change. But this is through knowledge. So the more informed that you are, the better off that you are. You know which bills they're passing, what affects you, what doesn't, what protects you, what doesn't. So we are trying to make the community more proactive to take action.
How are you getting in touch with people to do that?
We it was created on one of the protests in front of the Mexican consulate on November the 20th, which is a very historic date, the date of the revolution, Mexican Revolution started, and there were such good response from the people, from colleges, from everywhere, from people also inclusive from other nationalities, from El Salvador, Nicaragua, different people. That there were so in a great, it was a great momentum that the same people decided to create an assembly, the Asamblea Popular de Houston, and now we have a Facebook. We are meeting every Monday. Tonight at 5:30 we're gonna meet Talento Bilingüe at 5:30, and if you want to have more information about it, go to Facebook, Asamblea Popular de Houston, and there you're gonna find the updated information about our activities. And we invite everybody to visit us, get included in activities.
And of course, this is what you're talking about on Proyecto Latino on Tuesday nights as well, yes?
We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna invite. I hope tomorrow we're gonna have some guests to tell us about it in Spanish. Yeah.
But the gathering is actually today, so that if you wait to hear about it until
No, because we are,
tomorrow,
that's right. It's going to be late.
Yeah, you'll be.
It's going to be early for next week meeting.
So, and Talento Bilingüe is on the Near East Side. It's right there on Jensen, right across almost from the Virgin of Guadalupe Church, historic church right there on the east end of Houston. And, tonight at 5:30 you can keep this consciousness raised.
And the Facebook page again was the Asamblea.
Popular de Houston.
Okay.
Correct. So we would like to continue talking more and more and more because we still have a lot of things in our, notes and things. But you just tell me when do we stop?
We have to we have to wrap things up here in just a couple of seconds. So we're going to end today's conversation. But obviously we've just cracked the egg, and we have much more that we need to talk about here because this is something very important that many people, even progressive people, as you say, are in many cases just peripherally aware of all of the different ramifications related to this.
Yes, and we're going to ask for another open journal in the future because we want them to keep them updated, but also we invite people that is we are planning to do something to correct the service that the Mexican consulate is giving to our connationals. They are very unprofessional people, and they even physically they push you, and they don't treat you with respect. So we are going to take action on that. So if you are listening this, get in contact with Asamblea Popular de Houston, and we're going to take matters to correct this problem.
Alma Cooper.
Yeah.
Marixa, Andrade, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a very meaningful discussion, and we will continue this, you bet. And you have been listening to Open Journal, and we have to leave it there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Join us on social media with your opinions of today's program. We're at KPFT on Twitter and KPFT Houston on Facebook.
Thanks again for listening. I'm Dwayne Bradley. Tomorrow on Open Journal, we'll be welcoming back Lorenzo Cohen and Allison Jeffries to discuss stress and the holidays.
Oh, yeah. And I'm Marlo. You can hear this show again or find links of our guests and the topics you've heard at kpft.org.
And special thanks today to producers Demetrius Mahone, Holly Carmen, and Hedy Van Beckel, along with Ernesto Aguilar for their work on today's program.
Superior work. Thank you so much. Stay with us for Economic Update coming up after Bird Note. Today's focus will be on mainstream versus critical economics.
Mm-hmm. But for now, as always, we leave you with our thought for the day. Today's thought comes from Chiang Tsai, who said, "All people are my brothers and sisters, and all things are my companion." Take care of each other.
You have been listening to Open Journal, KPFT's experiment in community-inspired radio. Every weekday, KPFT hosts interviews, music, and culture to inform, enlighten, and illuminate your day. Our programming is made possible by people like you. KPFT depends on listener donations to stay on the air. Please make a tax-deductible contribution, day or night, for independent radio at kpft.org. We welcome ideas for topics and guests, and comments about today's program. Visit kpft.org to share your thoughts, or find us on Twitter at KPFT and on Facebook at KPFT Houston. Please stay tuned for more great programming next hour and the rest of the day. Find our complete program schedule and membership information at kpft.org. And thank you for listening to commercial-free, listener-sponsored 90.1.
This is Bird Note. Above a desert landscape, a raven soars, sleek black feathers against blues and browns. The desert seems an unlikely choice for this all-black bird. But ravens thrive even in the arid, often hot southwest, where common sense suggests that light-colored feathers would be a better adaptation to the scorching sun, like wearing a light-colored suit in the tropics. But as it turns out, A raven's black plumage works well in the desert. Black feathers do conduct the sun's warming rays, but they concentrate the solar heat near the surface of the plumage. All it takes is a breeze or air movement from wind or from flying to convect the heat away from the surface of the raven's dark feathers. Light-colored feathers absorb some of the sun's rays too, but they tend to trap heat and send it more directly to the skin, where a breeze gives less relief. So in even a slight wind, the skin of a black-feathered bird stays cooler than the skin of a white-feathered bird. This desert breeze also helps explain why many desert tribes, such as Bedouins, deal with extreme heat by wearing dark robes and sheltering in black tents. Today's show